Hello. I am
Hi,
so
Brian.
I'm
Good
so
to see
honored to
you.
be meeting today with Michaele-Sue Goldblatt. She's a therapist in Toronto, and she is working with a lot of people during this pandemic who are under stress and are experiencing anxiety. And my goodness, I think it's something that is a universal feeling. I tell you, I don't think I've ever been under more stress and feeling more anxious than I am right now. What's your experience with clients?
Well, I find that no matter what the client is coming to me for, the first thing we have to deal with in every single session is people are over the top with anxiety. You know, they're scared to go out. They don't know what the rules seem to change every other day. People don't. A lot of people don't have rapid antigen tests, and they want them to see if they can possibly spend Christmas with other family members. And everybody's trying to get those tests. It's I was speaking to one client today who is planning to go to New Jersey tomorrow to visit her family, and she's having a rapid antigen test now, right about noon, and then she's having another one first thing in the morning before she gets on a plane. And she's obviously hoping that both are negative. But it seems the pandemic is endemic. The stress is all over the place.
Yeah, well, we've been planning a family ski vacation to bring my 5 children. 3 of them are adults and live all over Canada, different parts of Canada. Bring them all together for a ski vacation with my grandson. And now we're thinking, well, we better cancel it because it requires us to go to British Columbia. And if we get sick, we don't want to be stuck in British Columbia for an extended period of time. And, I understand some of the times the symptoms are not significant, but my biggest concern is getting, that long-term, long COVID, where it really never goes away and you're constantly battling different, chest conditions and so on. I guess it can affect your heart and so on.
Well, it's not only that, even though we might have what we think are pretty mild symptoms, we think we're getting a cold, or maybe we have the flu. In fact, in a few days, it can really escalate. And in fact, you do have COVID, but you
Right.
didn't realize it. I am working with one lady who has what is now called long COVID syndrome.
Right.
She has thankfully was referred and has been accepted into a long COVID syndrome rehab program at Providence Hospital in Toronto. So that's a relief that she's going to be working with not only a therapist, that's almost not the biggest part, but with physiotherapists, medical people, nurses, so to get a handle on what's going on. But it's really overwhelming.
It is.
Brian, one of the reasons I thought it would be valuable to talk, you being a family law practitioner and me working with so many separating, divorcing families and blended families, is that for years and years, most family lawyers say, oh my God, the Christmas holidays are the toughest time of year
Yes, they
for the
are.
professionals, right? The husband didn't come on time. The wife brought her boyfriend, which is not part of the agreement, and all of that. So it's typically difficult for adults to handle all this, and the kids are upset. But I'm now finding there's so many more layers. So if your kids are let's say my kids are with me, and then they're going to go to their father's home. Let's say they're with me Christmas morning, they're going to the father's home Christmas afternoon, and his parents are going to be there. Really, the responsible thing to do is to have a rapid antigen test of 15 to 30 minutes before you go to the new home, to see if you're negative. And it just adds this huge layer and especially if the parents who might be in their 70s, 60s, or 70s are also there, the grandparents. Oh my goodness, I'm really suggesting to people, pull up every resource that you have to try to be gracious, to not allow yourself to get into a fight with your ex, because this, like you said, this is affecting all of us.
Yeah.
And not all of us here, all of us all over the world.
Yes. And, a friend was telling me a story that her brother is not vaccinated, and they wanted to have a family gathering, and the rest of the family was opposed to the unvaxxed brother attending. And so my friend said, well, why don't you do a rapid antigen test right before you enter our home? And the brother said, okay, I'll do that if everybody else does. And then, nobody wanted to do that when they're already vaxxed. And it's probably not a bad idea, but it just, all of this is adding more conflict and stress to people. And, it's hard enough when you're separating or divorced, all of the typical stresses, they're still there. But now, like you said, there's more layers to it, and more complexity and more anxiety.
Tremendous anxiety. And certainly I'm not a medical doctor, but it does appear that the recommendations from Dr. Tam, our new friend, is that if you're going to gather with people who do not live in the same household, you should all have that rapid antigen test 15 minutes before, even if you are vaxxed.
Right.
Okay. So it just adds so much stress, which is that's where we are. Shall we start going through these?
Sure. So I named it Stress, Divorce, Pandemic, Bah Humbug.
Perfect.
It's frustrating for everyone. So
and let's inject a little humor, the Bah Humbug.
And look, this is what we used to aspire to, and we used to have, is that family get together. This is a Christmas picture, but it could be Hanukkah gathering,
it could be multicultural,
or any other secular event or religious event. It was this time of year was meant for us to get together and celebrate and be together as a family, right?
Yeah, and I think also last year we were under lockdown, so we were so looking forward to being together before the Omicron raised its ugly head.
Right, absolutely. And so you spoke of the rapid antigen tests. They're hard to find. They're running out of rapid antigen tests, and it's very difficult to be able to get those. But I had to do a business trip to Phoenix, and before I got in the car upon arriving in Toronto, I did a rapid antigen test because I didn't want to risk infecting my children, who are 11 and 8 and had just they've had one shot of vaccine, but they're not fully vaccinated, and they're vulnerable. And although my wife and her uncle live with us, and they're both vaccinated, that you can still get COVID. And so I had to do that before I even got in the car and came home. And it's just another hurdle, another added stress to the day.
Yep, sure is.
And then, who's unhappy when it goes badly, when the kids don't get to see each other, or don't get to go over to their other parents' home, or what have you. You got unhappy kids, and, that makes it for a kind of a miserable experience as well.
Well, and also, even if you do have, here in Ontario, school-age children went home for the holidays with 5 rapid antigen tests. So let's say they are going over to the other parents. It's not that they like having somebody put a swab up their nose.
Oh my goodness,
okay?
no.
I mean, we don't like it, but for kids, they squirm, they don't want to sit still, it hurts. Of course, it hurts more because they're squirming,
Right.
but you know, they're miserable, and they, oh, do I have to do that? You know, it's hard.
You know what my kids have found is that they have some fidget toys and they'll play with those
Good idea.
and sort of to distract themselves. And they breathe out with their nose while the swab is up their nose, and it seems to go a lot better when they're doing that for some reason. But it's still irritating, and you know, that's the thing is parents always want to do what's right for their children, right? Of course. And so you hate to see them so upset if they're not able to go on a visit or if they have to have the antigen test. It's a miserable time.
It's layer after layer.
And like you said, I think everyone is overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed and you're feeling stress, that you have that amygdala hijack, right? Your amygdala, you feel like you're under attack, Michaele-Sue, and when you feel under attack, you can, you know, look at this fellow, and they're yelling and screaming, and boy, it's pretty hard not to be overwhelmed and lash out at people. You know, when your amygdala is under attack, you want to fight or flight. That's often what we do, right? And in family law, we see a lot of times it ends up in a fight.
Your usual way of coping and being rational goes out the window.
You know, we'd all like to be like this guy who's pretty chill, but you know, that's hard to do. It's so hard.
Very hard to do. In the midst of
all this. So the question is, how can we cope? How do we cope with all this stress and anxiety and all of the factors influencing our life? What do you do? You said at the beginning we need to find grace, but how do you find grace? Because, you know, intellectually you might say, you know, I understand there's this pandemic and blah blah blah, but in your heart, your emotions are totally different, and you're in conflict within yourself. You know, I find you're upset and angry, and you want to lash out. And how do you manage that?
What you're saying is that level of stress, you become totally reactive. So something happens and you immediately react, usually negatively.
Right.
Whereas we're really striving to take a breath, literally, we're going to look at that in a minute, to take a breath and to reflect and then to respond. But trying to interrupt that cycle of something happening and an instant reaction, which is usually anger.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some of the next slides where we actually have shown some of the strategies.
Well, you said we need acceptance, right? And that's so hard to do when there's so much pressure on us, right?
Well, it's true. And, you know, when we sometimes say things, well, it is what it is, that really isn't very helpful. But in another sense, we have to recognize this is not happening to each of us individually. So this pandemic and the resulting stress is not only on me, it's not only on you, it is literally on every human being in the world.
Right.
This is not, we didn't bring this on ourselves. And we have no control over the pandemic. The only thing we have any control over is in how we react.
Right.
Okay. Right. That's true of many things in life, but this is just showing us sort of supersonic that we are striving to come to a place where we say, okay, this is happening. What can I do to plan however I have to in relation to what's going on?
Right, right.
And there are techniques.
And so you said we should respond with grace. So how do you respond with grace? That's the challenge.
That is the challenge.
One of the techniques we talk about is expressing gratitude, and I love doing that. I think it really, for me, it's really helpful because I start to list all the things I'm grateful for, and it just sort of redirects my focus away from all the things I can't control, all the things that are negative and causing me stress and anxiety. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
It's exactly what I'm getting at. And it's also, look at it, we can be grateful that the ones that we're alive. If we had COVID, or if a loved one had COVID and survived it, we could say, thank God for that. Thank God for the medicine, the doctors, the healthcare workers who have served us. I don't know about you. I love working from home. I don't intend ever to go back to an office unless there's a particular reason. So I'm very fortunate in that respect. I think we have to, sometimes they say you're grasping at straws. Well, that may be, but grasp them all, please. Grasp everything that, not this minute, but if I was talking to you and my coffee was ready and it's about, 12 feet from me, I could walk over and grab a coffee and I'd be gone for what, 3 seconds or something, 4 seconds? Right. That is the way it used to be. Right. Okay. So there are some things, but especially if we are personally and our family has had good health, my goodness, we certainly can't take that for granted anymore. Right. So, yeah. And I when I got my booster shot, I expressed my gratitude for that practical nurse who was working and exposing herself to all these people, hundreds of people every day. And boy, I was just so grateful that she was there doing that work for me. Exactly. But you've got another technique. I want to hear about this one, the 5 finger. So this is fabulous. Okay. And I'm going to do it. And you're going to see and hear, this is not conscious. My voice changes. You take one hand and you take your index finger. Now, don't ask me why it has to be the index finger, but this is scientifically proven. You go, it doesn't matter which hand you start with. You breathe in as you go up the digit, and then you breathe out. Then you breathe in and out. In and out. In and out. In and out. Then you do the exact same thing. You can just start with the thumb or you can start with the baby finger. Same thing. It is amazing and you can hear it. I am not trying to lower my voice and I'm not trying to speak slower, but it happens automatically in my brain. I didn't invent this, but I have introduced it, I would say, to every client. And everybody says to me, at the minimum, it gives them a break from the anxiety they're feeling. And if they're under terrible stress, even 2 minutes is a little bit of a break. The other thing it often does for people is it interrupts the stress level. And maybe you can maintain that breathing and that calm, maybe even for an hour as you're going about your day. And if anybody's interested, we can provide the links. But actually, if you just put in 5-finger breathing into Google, there are a lot of exercises and similar ones come up, including a great one for kids. But yeah. I have just found this to be, it stops the anxiety in its tracks, at least for the time that you're doing it. Yeah. It's really, I would say, my favorite. Yeah. I totally feel different having done that right now with you. It's just it's amazing. I've never. It is amazing. It's so simple. But so they tell me, the scientists say, you must use your index finger because there must be senses here that somehow go to your brain differently. Wow. I don't know why it works, but who cares? It just works. So it's great. That's great technique. Okay. And Brian, I'm just telling you, I looked at the chat and somebody has a point for you. Not about this topic,
Yeah,
but about legal stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Oops. Whoop, I pressed the wrong way. Here we go.
Right.
On this is just walking together with your, with your bubble is a really good strategy for. And I've come across people who talk about the importance both of sunlight and of nature.
Nature and fresh air.
Yeah, we need to get outside, and Canadians are hardy. We need to just bundle up and go outside and have a walk, and especially get some of that sunlight. That just helps to relieve stress too and put things in perspective.
Well, and also just the idea of getting up, of taking a break, of moving. And I suggest to people who are really struggling, I suggest they build it into their calendar, to their daily calendar. Okay, I'm going to walk at 8 a.m. for 10 minutes. And then at 10:30, I'm going to take a break, and maybe I'll go 15 minutes. Even those of us who are working at home, where we likely have the tendency to work straight through, force yourself to get out. I would say a minimum of twice a day. And if you can do more, that's even better. We're sitting all day. It's great to have some movement and to clear your head. Yeah, and as you said, being with nature is so important.
Yeah, and even if you're in an urban setting, that nature might be a local park or something like that, where you can see grass and trees and
snow.
And snow. Yeah, I hope we get more of it.
Yeah.
Whoops, I keep pressing the wrong button. What about meditation?
Look, meditation is terrific. This person is meditating. Looks like she's also in a yoga. It might be in a yoga class. These things are very beneficial because it interrupts that crazy ongoing thought process that you can't seem to stop. And again, we can provide some links if people want. There are a lot of meditation exercises, mindfulness and meditation exercises that one can find online. And a great many of them are free on YouTube that you can just click into.
Well, there's apps too. There's apps
there's apps you can put on your phone.
Right.
But I just found out from one of my clients to whom I recommended a particular app that when I got it a couple of years ago was free. They're no longer free. They're free for 7 days.
Yeah, but the cost is minimal.
The subscription is not terrible. The subscription is usually $70 or $80 a year.
Yeah.
So not, for some people that's not affordable, but for many it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would say go test a few out, take advantage of the 7-day free, and see if you find the voice of the person calming, because there's different apps. You'll find different ones.
Yeah, and it's all about meditation, as I understand it, is all about trying to watch your thoughts and let them flow through you, right?
A lot of people say, oh, I tried it, I couldn't do it, I didn't do it right. Well, the reality is there is no right way.
Right.
You do it, and if you can't stop, okay. So you're thinking about, oh, I have to pick up laundry on the way home, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. All right, that's what you're thinking. You didn't fail meditation. Okay.
Right.
It's a process. It's a process.
It's a process. Right on. And boy, we just have to find a way to be hopeful, right? That hopefully Christmas 2022 will be different than this one and the last one.
Exactly. And again, that's where that gratefulness comes in. Right. To say, I'm not sick. The people I knew who were sick, thank God, they all lived, or we did lose somebody. Perhaps that happened. Of course, it's tragic. Of course, it's sad. But the money and time spent developing these vaccines was not just money and time spent in the last year or two. We in Ontario had SARS very significantly in 2003. And the scientists and medical people have been working on a vaccine ever since then.
Right.
because COVID is a SARS virus. So we have to be grateful that we at least have, a year ago, you and I and the rest of Ontario and Canada had no protection. I mean, our vaccine rollout was very delayed.
Yes.
Okay, it was very delayed. So at least now we do have some protection.
Yeah, and that should give us a sense of hope. But
I hope.
let's talk about what we can do this year. What kind of activities people can do to get through. And one on the scene on the right is a distance driveway visit. I see that when I go for a walk around my community. It's funny to see so many families gathering on their driveway at a distance from one another, but they're outside, which makes it much safer, and they're still able to communicate and be with one
another. And they're having virtual hugs.
Virtual hugs, yeah.
Just like the gentleman on the left. He's having a dinner with his friend. Okay, they're both sitting there in their respective homes together.
Yeah.
And I work with many people. One person comes to mind, an 82-year-old lady who lives alone, widow, lives alone. Thank goodness she has activities every single day. 2 times a week, she has dinner with her cousin in Scotland. I can't remember what hour they have it, but some kind of compromise. She plays bridge twice a week online. Another friend who is not computer savvy, they play cribbage on the telephone. She has really risen to the occasion because she is very lonely. She is very isolated, but this helps, being able to embrace and learn technology if we didn't know before, so that we have the advantage of being able to have dinner with a friend, even though you're not in the same room.
Right.
You are in the same space.
Yeah, well, last Christmas, my one son who lives in downtown Toronto and my other son who's on Vancouver Island, they all joined us for Christmas dinner on Zoom. And, people complain about Zoom fatigue, but, again, it's acceptance. This is our reality. It's not our fault. It's no one's fault. It's just our reality of our existence right now. And so we need to just say, okay, this is the best we can do in the circumstances.
Absolutely.
I like the bottom one. They've got a dinner set up outside so they can, because always it's a lot safer when you're outside in a breeze than.
Well, exactly. And we just, here we are in Canada, dress warmly, and, it may not be a full dinner, but we have to play it by ear, see if we are able to.
Right. Well, if we have any questions, that would be great. You can just put them in the chat. But here's our contact information if anyone wants to reach out to us, and we can try to help you and give you some advice or point you in the right direction. So,
and I would also say, Brian, if I may, when you said that my office is in Toronto, it is true that I had an office in Toronto that I was usually in 2 or 3 days a week. But the reality is, for so many of us, we're virtual. So right. It really, for me as a registered social worker, my license permits me to work in the province of Ontario. So I am able to work with anybody anywhere in Ontario.
Absolutely. And as are we, our law firm, we have offices in Barrie, Newmarket, and 3 offices in Toronto, but we represent clients throughout the province. And because we do everything virtually, our lawyers are not meeting with clients in person. It's all done on Zoom or just a telephone call sometimes. And of course, emails and documents are exchanged that way. So yeah, we can help anybody anywhere in the province of Ontario as well.
Yeah. I know. I even had someone referred to me who lives in Saskatchewan, and I was able to get a temporary registration from the the registrative body in that province.
Right.
So please do reach out. Sometimes, from my perspective and my work, sometimes it's just really helpful to have somebody to talk to about the stresses you're going through. Not only in terms of parenting, and especially parenting in divorce, separating, or blended families, where this pandemic is just layered on stress, but for anybody, it can be very helpful to have somebody to whom you can speak unreservedly.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, that's a big, it's a big need.
Get that objective, the perspective.
Well, objective, and also just containing the anxiety. Sometimes when you tell somebody else, they can hold on to it and you get a sense of relief. Oh, I got that out.
Got that out, yeah.
Yeah, and especially because it's virtual, you don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to worry about taking the subway or the train or the bus. You don't have to pay parking fees. You can sit at home as long as you have privacy and talk to someone.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate your insight and having this conversation. And so I'd like to welcome you back, and we'll do this again.
Okay, take care. Thanks so much, Brian.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye, everyone.